We need to talk about what's really going on in the ever-changing crypto market. Trump is shaking up all markets, true, but I fully expect Bitcoin to reach new highs and beyond before this year is over. Now, obviously, this is not going to happen tomorrow, but when this does happen, Bitcoin plus 3 specific quality altcoins I expect to rally hard, and I'm going to tell you why in today's video. Smash the like button, comment which altcoins you think are quality. Of course, today's video, nor any videos or comments from us are ever financial advice, just info and opinion. But if you're interested and invested in crypto and you don't hold at least 1 or 2 or 3 of these 3 altcoins, I seriously question your investment thesis. So first of all, before we get to altcoins, you can feel confident that Bitcoin, the market mover Bitcoin, will rise again higher than ever. In the short term, Bitcoin needs to hold the 50-week simple moving average at $76,000 to stay in a bullish uptrend. A quick wick below is fine, like we saw in August of 2024 with the bounce from 50K. But weekly closes must stay above. So as long as this level holds, the structure of higher highs and higher lows remains intact, setting up for new highs. Analyst Virtual Bacon explains this here. I totally agree with the short-term analysis.
Here's my bottom line for Bitcoin's price action currently. I expect Bitcoin to reach new highs this year. However, I really want to see Bitcoin hold above the 50-week simple moving average, this blue average line, which currently sits at 76,000. As long as the 76K level holds, this simply looks like Bitcoin's typical price correction throughout this cycle. And we would still have the higher highs and higher lows structure, with the previous high at 108,000, the next low at 76,000, which is trading above the previous high at 73,000. Now, if Bitcoin touches the 76K level and even wicks below it, if there's some sort of significant liquidity event that causes major panic in the markets, we need to watch the daily candle closes and especially the weekly candle to not have it close below 76K. Worst comes to worst, I would like to see a similar candle formation like we had in the week of August 5th, 2024, where Bitcoin wicked below 50K, but quickly closed back above it. I don't want to see any weekly candle closes below 76,000.
So short term looks solid, but obviously it's the long term that truly matters. And in the long term, what we're actually seeing is surreal. Many of us hoped to see events like this someday, possibly in our lifetime, and now here we are seeing it. First of all, Senate Banking Chair Tim Scott says 2 big Bitcoin and crypto legislation bills are about to be passed. These will get passed by August. Stablecoin bill, market structure bill, both of these will be huge for capital coming into the market.
Under the Biden administration and the Gensler at the SEC, they just didn't like crypto. What I've said very often is simply this: we must innovate before we regulate. That means allowing innovation to happen here at home in the digital asset space is critical to American economic dominance across the globe. The good news is President Trump is leading the way to a crypto revolution, starting here at the Banking Committee, and that's why we've moved very quickly the Genius Act, focusing on the crypto world. That's how you get things done. It's passed through my committee in a bipartisan fashion. Next, market structure on its way to be heard in the committee, marked up, and I believe passed into law by August.
And then after that, the big one, Senator Cynthia Lummis says that her Bitcoin reserve bill is getting more popular and people are starting to realize that the US buying Bitcoin can actually save America. Here's how.
I think the fact that a tool's been identified that if you buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year for 5 years for a total of 1 million Bitcoin, which is 5% of the world supply, hold on to it for 20 years. And with some of the best modeling available, it shows that it would cut our national debt in half. That's a game changer. So if you were to couple that with a Congress that's more committed to getting to the point where we match our revenues and our expenditures, we can retire this debt. It's the only vehicle I have ever found that will achieve that.
Now, will the Bitcoin bill get passed or not? That's the big question. I tend to think it will, particularly what we're seeing. Most people don't realize this. First of all, Congressman Tom Emmer says that he believes before this Congress is done, the strategic Bitcoin reserve will be enacted.
So yes, there is legislation, and I believe that before this Congress is done, that will be enacted.
Because it's not just him. White House admin Bo Hines says they would love to see the bill to buy 1 million Bitcoin get passed into law ASAP.
We'd love to see the strategic Bitcoin reserve enshrined into law as well, which, that's why we're thankful for Senator Lummis, everything she's doing there. We're thankful for what's happening in the House side as well. I know that there's two separate pieces of legislation. Both chambers are now attempting to do the same thing.
And guess what? We're already seeing this on the state level. States are passing Bitcoin reserve legislation. New Hampshire strategic Bitcoin reserve bill just passed the House. Florida's strategic reserve bill just passed the House. So, knowing that Bitcoin and crypto will have a future boom in the US and around the world, which quality altcoins am I looking at? Well, the first one may surprise you, XRP. Now, I used to be kind of an XRP bear. I couldn't really see in the past how it could gain adoption. I mean, XRP wants to work with the banks. The banks used to be very against crypto, particularly custodying it, working with it. But XRP today is totally different than XRP over the last 10 years. Today, banks want to work with crypto. Today, banks can work with crypto. So that risk is dropped. And beyond that, Ripple is making big moves, just announcing their largest acquisition in crypto history. TLDR, XRP will lead adoption from retail and institutions from their actions. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse explains what comes next for them.
President Trump has made big strides that are very pro-crypto. It's got to be great for somebody like you. However, the price of, let's just say, Bitcoin, which reached a high after the election of something like $107,000, is nowhere near that now. I think we're around 86,000 and change, but it's been a market drop. When do you foresee this moving back up?
Yeah. When I think about that, your last guest, Larry Fink, talked about just taking the long-term view.
Right.
And I almost don't think about it in that kind of short-term time frame. I think about what are the macro trends playing out for the crypto industry, for the XRP ecosystem. XRP has been the best performing major crypto in the last 90 days. We think about it as what does that look like over the next 3 years? I'm very optimistic. I mean, Ripple just announced our largest acquisition, actually one of the largest acquisitions in the entire crypto industry to date. We announced it earlier this week on Tuesday in the middle of tariff palooza. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with the tariffs, but we're betting on where the world's going to be in 3 years, not what's going to happen in the next 6 months.
Would you have made that acquisition a year ago?
No, hard no. Look, the SEC in the United States and even other parts of the Biden administration, it was a coordinated attack across many different agencies. Mm-hmm. We're finding that more and more out now. You already highlighted it in your introduction. The IRS had hostile rules about crypto that really didn't make any sense. Banks weren't even allowed to reasonably custody crypto without having an equal offset to their balance sheet, which really makes no sense for a bank than to even partake in this industry. It's a real industry. That administration wasn't listening to consumers. They weren't listening to the voter and what the voter wanted. We're now seeing a significant change across the board. And an acquisition like that would have made no sense a year ago, and it makes a lot of sense now.
Solana is leading the charge when it comes to ecosystem commerce. In fact, Solana has generated more 24-hour fees than Ethereum and BNB combined. This just shows that Solana is still getting used big. And subscribers of this channel know we talk about Solana all the time. There's a lot going on in the Solana ecosystem. So I won't spend much time on it because I actually think out of Solana and Ethereum, although they both make today's list, I actually think perhaps Ethereum is the better buy right now. Now, being an Ethereum holder as of late hasn't really been that easy. If you bought Ethereum 7 years ago, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is you haven't lost a cent. The bad news is you haven't made a cent, unless you're staking, of course, and then you did. But, all of this is to suggest that there's a lot of reasons why I think Ethereum could see a huge rally, and a lot of analysts also think so. On-chain indicator suggests Ethereum could be undervalued according to crypto analysts. Basically, the indicators can be boiled down to this. The sentiment for Ethereum is low. Capitulation may have occurred. Smart money might be accumulating. Now, we know that Wall Street is getting in on Ethereum in a big way. BlackRock, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Coinbase as their custody provider also working directly on Ethereum. The point is, Ethereum is leading in tokenization. Ethereum is leading in real-world asset adoption. Ethereum and its L2s hold over 80% of total market share in the real-world asset sector. Ethereum is number one when it comes to stablecoin activity. And like I said, a lot of important people who can make things happen believe in ETH, hold ETH. You still think Ethereum is finished? So the big question is Ethereum versus Solana. And like I said, I think actually Ethereum may be the best bang for your buck right now. Of course, nobody knows the future. But Arthur Hayes recently got interviewed on the Unchained podcast. He said something very similar. He said, buy Ethereum over Solana right now. Listen.
So I guess the best way to think about it is if you have a fresh unit of fiat of capital, what do you do with it? Do you buy Solana or do you buy ETH? Right now, given all the things that are happening. And so I would say ETH from a risk reward perspective is better, more because it's as hated as you say. Whenever you have a turn in the cycle, you want to own the most hated thing because that's going to perform the best. And you don't want to own the most loved thing from the previous cycle because that's going to perform the worst. That's not to say that Solana is not going to go up a lot, but relative to something else, is it going to perform as well? And so I think ETH has sort of the market fundamentals to do very well in this next leg up because people hate it so much. And so, if it starts rising a lot in price, then you start getting on the, oh no, ETH's back, right? And everyone forgets all the things the reason why they hated ETH in the previous cycle, and then they jump on the bandwagon. So again, it's this, I want to, if I'm going to, on a risk reward basis in a new cycle trend, I want to own the most hated thing and not the most loved thing of the previous cycle. So what's the most hated L1? It's ETH. So I think ETH could be the dark horse that does very, very well and could retake its previous all-time high of 5,000 back in 2021 before Solana goes up, 2 or 3x to retake its previous all-time high of 3 months ago of 300. That's sort of the trade that I would be making if I have fresh capital. Now, I'm not deploying any fresh capital into ETH. I guess I'll hold a bag of it. So it's not really a apples to apples comparison, but that's sort of how I'm thinking about the market, right? You've got a unit of fiat. Your goal is to maximize that unit of fiat by owning the thing that goes up the most. That is the goal.
You can buy and trade any of these coins we talked about today on crypto exchange Bitchunex, one of our favorite exchanges. You can long or short crypto, no KYC, great exchange to trade, and use code Altcoin Daily for 8K in trading bonuses. Guys, subscribe to the channel, join our team. We show you on a daily basis why cryptocurrency is the future, but nothing has really changed with the underlying protocol. This tariff stuff will pass. There's a discount right now on quality cryptos. That's what I believe. I will see you tomorrow. We're almost at 1.6 million.